What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters. Welcome to No Life Till Metal. It is time for something. I should have come up with a name before I started the video. But I'm just going to make this as part of my What's Spinning series, and this is going to be all about hair metal. I freaking hate the term hair metal. It's a stupid term. Kind of like butt rock or dad rock or any of these derogatory terms people have come up with for classic hard rock and heavy metal. Everybody had hair, big hair. Thrash bands, death metal bands, pop metal bands, traditional metal, doom bands. They all had hair. It was part of the scene in the 70s and in the 80s. If you were a rocker, you had long hair, and therefore the term hair metal, which basically refers to the poppier side of metal, is stupid. So I'm going to call this pop metal, glam metal. You know, there's different terms for it. Sleaze metal. Basically, it's just metal, you know. I mean, me growing up in the 80s as a teenager, you know, I bought albums like Metal Massacre back here. Metal Massacre, this has Metallica on one side and Rat on the other. I mean, it was all metal to me. It was all metal to us. We called it all metal. Even bands like, you know, Black Sabbath, Rainbow, Judas Priest, Scorpions, Deep Purple, Budgie, Led Zeppelin, those were all metal bands to us in the 80s. Wasn't until the late to mid 80s that people started making this big hard division. Thrash metal is this, and you can't like thrash metal and pop metal. I like them both, so I don't really care what anybody says. You know what I mean? I can dig a band like Cinderella, and I can dig a band like Napalm Death. You know, I like it both. So why make the big division between the two? And then somewhere around the 90s, it became even weirder with people dividing. Now, there's no such thing as heavy metal in the 70s. Now, heavy metal began in the 80s, and all the 70s bands are just hard rock. And there was no heavy metal in the 70s. I don't know what you do with Judas Priest and Motorhead and you know, Budgie, all those bands that basically were the first wave of heavy metal from the 70s. But that's ridiculous too. You know, you can't separate them. You can't say, well, Slayer's true metal, therefore Rainbow is not true metal. It's a different animal. I mean, you got blues, you can have Chicago style blues, and you can have heavy electric blues. There's different kinds of blues, there's different kinds of metal. It doesn't make one more metal, one less metal. It's just all under the banner of hard rock and heavy metal. So there, rant over. What I want to do is get into some of my favorite pop metal albums. I've had questions about this. I'm always throwing thrash, and I've been into death metal kick recently, and you know, traditional metal and 70s rock. What are some of my favorite 80s pop metal albums, or glam metal albums, or hair metal albums? So I grabbed, I don't know, a stack about that big, this big, and I'm going to show them to you now. Some of my favorites that I have on vinyl. There's a lot of stuff I have on CD too that I don't have on vinyl, or that I wouldn't have showed it, but for now we're just going to go through this stack, and maybe I'll do another one down the road. But first up, wore this shirt in one of my last videos. Got lots of comments on that shirt. I love Mass. This was only their second full-length album at the time, and this would have been the end of the 80s, 89 I believe it was, and it was produced by, was it Oz Fox or Michael Sweet? Let's see, Michael Sweet, from Striper fame. And people always throw these guys into the Christian metal thing, you know, with Striper, and that's not the case. Mass never marketed themselves as a Christian band. Their lyrics aren't necessarily based on Christian ideals, so I'm not sure where that came from. The name Mass is taken from their home state of Massachusetts. Their songs are about everything from girls and love to breakups to anger, and yeah, they have some songs about, you know, faith and spiritual things, but it's all over the map. So this is a fantastic pop metal album. It's unfortunate that these guys didn't get their first album out in the early 80s. They recorded with Tom Ullman from Judas Priest, producer. Whatever happened with the record company and their management, it just set them back for years. So by the time their first album came out on RCA, it was, you know, they just weren't at the beginning of the movement. So you know, they never kind of achieved the fame that they might have achieved if that first album had come out on time back in the early 80s. Anyhow, Mass Voices in the Night. Heavy guitars, lots of harmony, background vocals. What's his name? The vocalist on this band. Oh, Louis St. August. Where is his name? Yeah, Louis St. August. I should have not doubted myself. He's just got this really smooth, charismatic voice. Nobody really quite sounds like him. And this is just a fantastic record. My favorite from Mass. It is more pop metal than their New Birth album or their, any of their EPs from before this, but it's still very well produced. It's not overproduced. It's just very good, straightforward hair metal with big hooks, big guitars, that kind of thing. This is one that's pretty much not heard of. I don't know why, but this is a fantastic album from Circus of Power. These guys kind of went downhill after this. They have some other albums that are good, but this is definitely their best album. This was probably early 90s, late 80s, somewhere in that area. 1988. The sound here is fairly heavy for people considering it pop, but it kind of has that kind of AC/DC vibe mixed in. But it's not sticky sweet poison style pop. It's not unskinny bop. It's got more grit to it, which is the way I like that kind of music. Kind of like why I like the Mass, kind of why I like Circus of Power. It's got heavy guitars and it's got a heaviness to it, even though it has those pop sensibilities and those big hooks, big musical hooks and big choruses and whatnot. And you got that here. That's definitely a great album. If you don't know Circus of Power, do yourself a favor, look it up. It was RC Records. I don't think this is a hard one to find on CD or vinyl. Well worth picking up if you can find it. This one might be an obvious one, but this is Rat's first full-length album. I actually like their EP best. To me, that's just straightforward metal, as is this, but it does have the big pop hooks. There's no doubt about it that Round and Round was it's got just a massive, grab you by the jugular hook that's going to pull you in, especially if you are a fan of pop rock. That video back in MTV days was just ridiculous, but it worked, and I still think it's hilarious to this day. The Rat Woman. Anyhow, I always wondered why too. In the lyrics to Round and Round, he says, "I'll tell you why," but he never does tell us why. So again, heavy guitars, big, rhythm section, huge hooks. It's all there. This is one that a lot of people might not know of, but this is Ken Tamplin's Shout. This is the second album from Shout. Ken Tamplin, who had previously been in a band called Joshua. This was his second album as Shout with Chuck King trading off lead guitar with Ken Tamplin. Again, Ken has got this incredible voice with multiple octaves. He's just an incredible singer. Matter of fact, he has a singing school now that you can see on YouTube. The guy is just an incredible talent, both vocally and musically. He writes great songs, and you're going to hear that on here. There is one song on here that features a bunch of different guitar players coming in and doing some guests, including guys like Marty Friedman. I'm trying to remember the name of that song. Is on here. Borderline, When the Love Will Give Me an Answer. In Your Face. The song is In Your Face. It's the longest song on here at 5:10 because it's got this incredibly long guitar solo in the middle of it. Kind of like that Dio song that they did for, what was that called? We're Stars? Yeah, that was it. And it had that big long guitar solo that was pieced together from all these guitar players. You're going to get that with Shout as well. I know people hate that sound. Sorry. Wasn't planning on taking these out of the shrink, but I was kind of hoping I could see the names of some of the other guitar players on here. So you got Lanny Cordola, House of Lords, among others. You've got Marty Friedman, Megadeth, Cacophony, among others. Michelangelo, TNT. Let's see who else we got on here. Randy Hansen, Alex Massey, Joey Price. So it has a little bit of everything on here. Ken Tamplin does some solos as well as, let's see, Lanny Cordola, Ken Tamplin, Lanny Cordola, Randy Hansen. So it looks like they all do at least one or more solos. Some of them lasting only seconds long. Some of them, actually all of them are only seconds long. But it is nearly 3 minutes of guitar solo. It just smokes. Anyhow, Shout, In Your Face, second album from them. And don't they just look spiffy in their hair metal get-ups? People make fun of and mock the 80s and this look, but I like it. I mean, obviously I wouldn't walk around looking like that now because it's ridiculous. But these guys didn't walk around looking like this either. It was a stage look. You got up on stage and you put on an act that was bigger than life. You got up there and you looked like you were putting on a show, and that's kind of what went on with the 80s look and sound. You didn't get up there in your t-shirt and jeans and just stare at your sneakers like they did in the musically depressed 90s. Now look at that. There's a picture of some of the other guitar players right there. So you can see Alex Massey and Lanny Cordola, and of course Lanny would go on to work with Ken and later on in a band called Magdalene. So, and speaking of Michelangelo, Over the Top. This is OFR, and this is over the top glam metal. I mean, you got Michelangelo on here just tearing up the keyboard. Tearing up the keyboards, yeah. Tearing up the guitar. He's got his four-neck guitar going on right there. You've got Bobby Rock down here looking like the glamster that he is. Great drummer. And then, of course, Jim Gillette with the biggest, most blonde hair and the highest, most insane vocals you've ever heard. This one, I was watching a cable access show and they were playing videos and they played a song by Nitro called Freight Train, and that song just grabbed me and I loved it, and I've loved them ever since. They basically put out 2 albums under the Nitro name. There's some demo releases, stuff like that, but 2 full-length albums, and both of them are fantastic. If you're into that over-the-top glam style, where, I mean, when I'm saying over-the-top, I mean crazy guitar playing, stupid high vocals, you're going to like that here. Kind of like Vinnie Vincent Invasion in that area, so. My favorite album from this band, this is a band I do not consider hair metal, but everybody else does. This is Motley Crue. Of course, early on, they were just a straightforward metal band in my opinion. Yeah, they have the pop. I almost think like this is like heavy metal meets the Raspberries going on right here, but you can't tell me that this is, you know, the same as the stuff they did later on with Girls, 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 and, you know, when they started looking with the pink, poofy poodle haircuts and all that kind of junk. They just look badass here. I mean, it was long hair, denim and leather and studs, you know. Judas Priest, and I thought it was great. I still think it's great. This actually happens to be one of the Leather Records pressings. So next up, this is a band everybody probably knows, Cinderella. This band from Philadelphia, I've loved them since they first came out. Hometown heroes for me. I grew up in that area, so these guys were awesome, playing the clubs out there long before they scored their contract with Mercury Records, thanks to Bon Jovi. I am not a Bon Jovi fan, but I am thankful that he gave Cinderella a shot. Wish these guys would have released more than 4 albums, but that's all they released. I like all 4 of them. I'm just showing the one because, well, it's their first album and they look like the typical hair metal band on that cover. Every song on here is great. I mean, there's just, again, heavy guitars, and I love Tom's vocals. He just has that scratchy Steven Tyler kind of voice going on. As a matter of fact, you can definitely hear, you know, big Aerosmith influence in the sound here. And on that Rat album earlier, and they even covered Aerosmith early in their career, but Night Song, Shake Me, Nobody's Fool, I mean, Somebody Save Me, Push Push, these were all songs that were huge in the 80s. And this is a great album, so I make no apologies for what I like, and I like that. This one, anybody who knows me knows I love this band. Henrik died a few years ago, and he's definitely missed. That's his picture on the front cover. Cover stinks. Photo on the back is awesome. That's what a metal band should look like. These guys weren't, you know, puffy poodle rockers. They were a heavy rock band, and yeah, they got compared to AC/DC quite a bit. Rose Tattoo and that kind of thing, and they definitely had that vibe to them. But they were heavy rockers, man. They, you know, they never tried to be Poison or Warrant or, you know, any of those kind of more poppy bands whose guitar tone wasn't real crunchy and stuff like that. They were straight up heavy rock and roll. This is their fourth album. This is their 4th album, but their first on a major label. This was Cool from the Wire, 1987, I believe it was, on Atlantic Records. 1988, Atlantic Records. Right along the same lines, but this is actually got more to do with Cinderella than Dirty Looks. This is Britney Fox. This was their first album, and they definitely have that 80s look going on. I mean, there you go. If you're going to call something hair metal, that's probably the typical hair metal look going on right there. Huge, poofy hair, the I don't know what you call that cut going on there. But yeah, they just, the pouty lips, the frilly clothing. This is the poodle pink rocker look that I was talking about. Unlike this, which is your straightforward denim and leather look. These guys definitely played the part of that, and their sound is definitely more on the pop side. Very poppy, hooks, much like the very first Cinderella album. Matter of fact, it kind of looked like Cinderella on that album. And if I'm not mistaken, it was Michael Kelly Smith, guitar player, who actually played in Cinderella previous to them signing their contract with Atlantic Records. So, but yeah, it's still a great record. Big hooks, great guitar playing, huge rhythm section. It's all there. And I always like Dizzy Dean's vocals. Again, he has kind of that raspy Steven Tyler thing going on, which is one of the reasons I like him. I kind of like that, you know, raspy vibe. Excuse me. I need to stop yammering on. I can yammer on about this stuff forever. I'm just a geek about it. So this is XYZ. Now this is totally different style-wise, vocally especially. This guy has this clean, awesome voice. Terry Lewis, is that what it was? Terry Illois? Terry Illois. I thought it was Lewis. I don't know. Maybe it is Lewis. But man, it's just every song on here has just got a huge, huge hook. And again, great guitar playing. This is not quite as raw and as heavy as, say, Dirty Looks. Probably more along the lines of Cinderella with smoother vocals. Again, great band. A little late for the game. This was the end of the 80s. They never quite achieved the success as many of their other bands that are similar in style. This is 1989 as well. And grab this as well. This is the 12-inch single for Inside Out. I figure I'll never get a chance to show this one any other time, so I pulled it out to show. This one is fantastic. Again, this is the end of the 80s too. This might have been 88. This is on Roadrunner, released on Enigma in the US. This is a UK pressing of Guardian's first album, First Watch. This is the only album this lineup recorded. Guardian went on to record several more albums for Pachyderm and Epic Records in the future with Jamie Rowan vocals and replacing, let's see, what was his name? Paul Crawley, I believe it was. No, there he is. I'm pretty sure his name was Paul Crawley. He left the band, and he had a very smooth voice. And this was right along the lines of what XYZ with the big hooks. But this is more, not really poppy. It's more straightforward heavy metal with clean vocals, big hooky choruses again. But it's still heavy. It's still metal. You know, I wouldn't even really classify it as like, it wouldn't fit with, you know, with this. These two bands sound nothing alike, even though both are considered hair metal. Now, the next album they put out was far more along that lines. Fire and Love. That album has never been released on vinyl, although it is coming out on vinyl shortly. Real excited about that because I actually love Fire and Love. It's one of my favorite albums. I actually like Fire and Love as much as this album. Again, if you like straightforward heavy metal with a bit of a pop hook, you probably dig this. Tony Palacios is a phenomenal guitar player, so I'll just say that. I mentioned earlier about Ken Tamplin being in a band called Joshua, and here you go, this is Joshua. Then again, we got an Yngwie Impallitteri style shredder guitarist in this band, but he manages to not do the Yngwie thing. He's more about the songs, and the guitar solos are part of the songs. So it's just not, you know, music to play guitar solos over. Rob Rock actually sings on this. Rob Rock, who sang in Impallitteri, among others. Angelica, she sang in so many bands. Avantasia he sang for, tons of bands. Mars Project, Project Driver. Anyhow, he sings on this album. Just incredible melodic heavy metal, in my opinion. I always like the album cover too. This one is seems to be a bit harder to find these days. I don't know why RCA won't allow it to be re-released. But I don't think this one's ever been officially re-released. There's tons of bootlegs out there. Both CD and vinyl are very hard to find. So this one sells on the average of $50 to $60 on eBay. Sometimes I've seen it go for more than that. Great record. Rob Rock's one of the best voices in heavy metal, in my opinion. The guy can sing the phone book, and it would sound great. So mentioned Lanny Cordola earlier, and here is House of Lords. This was the band that came out of Jafria. Jafria, who was Greg Jafria, who came out of Angel. When Angel broke up, Greg formed the band Jafria. They put out 2 albums, both of which I enjoy. Then they got along with Gene Simmons, who started managing them, had them change their name to House of Lords. They ended up getting a new singer, James Christian. But again, you got that puffy poodle hairdos and frilly shirts and the whole bit look going on here. So again, this is pretty much typical of the 80s hair metal. And the sound here is very melodic. Obviously with Greg Giuffria being the main man here. Keyboards are a heavy part of this, but you've got Lanny Cordola on guitar, so you've got great guitar playing as well. Big Hooks again, great album on Simmons Records, I believe. Yep, Simmons Records, distributed by BMG. There's the little Simmons money bag on the bottom. Moving on, still got a few to go here. This is Helix, again, another band I would consider just a straightforward heavy metal band, especially early on. Their first two albums were more straightforward 70s style rock. Their first album came out in 78, I believe. Second album might have been 79, 80. Again, more of a 70s style rock. With the next two albums, actually, they went for a more heavy metal sound. With this one, they got more of a poppy sound. Still sounds like Helix, still has a heavy sound to it, but you definitely get some more a smoother sound from them. The kids are all shaking. Deep Cuts the Knife was a huge cut from this album. Why this band didn't become huge? I mean, they had everything. They were on Capitol Records. They had them backing them. They had the sound. They had the look. They had the art. But they never quite caught on, especially in the U.S. like they did in Canada. This is Long Way to Heaven, 1985. This is pretty early for the whole hair metal thing. I don't see the date on here. 1985. I was right. I should stop doubting myself, huh? But yeah, you can definitely even see it in the look here. They're going for we got, instead of leather and studs, which is what you saw them in earlier, you've got Brian Vollmer wearing all white, probably to go along with the theme of Long Way to Heaven. Yeah, great band. Of course, we lost guitar player, what's his name, Paul Hackman. Right there, Paul Hackman a few years ago in a car accident while the band was touring. But these guys are still out, still putting out music, still touring, especially around Canada. Great band. I got to meet Brian Vollmer not too long ago, and he was a very nice guy. So another one of those ones I love. Love the vocals in this, man. He's just got that screeching sound. I don't know why. I don't know how Jason McMaster went from Watchtower, which was a progressive, almost thrash, straightforward heavy metal band, to this, which is just sleazy heavy metal, maybe almost like Guns N' Roses, but just more sleazy. Lyrics are goofy as crap. It's kind of fun, but I mean, when you got songs like "Sportin' a Woody," what do you expect? You know, you're not getting rocket science here. Teasin' Pleasin', Bones in the Gutter, Take Me Drunk, That Dog, Outlaw. It's, you're not expecting this to be anything but a fun record, and that's what it was all about. And this was the end of the 80s as well. This was probably 89. Always loved the fact that one of the guys in the back is wearing a Death shirt. Once again, proving that you could like more than one sound. You didn't have to like only one sound. Dangerous Toys' first album. I like everything Dangerous Toys put out, save for the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys, which I thought was okay. But I like the first three albums the best. So and Pissed was great. I'd love to get that one on vinyl. Last band I'm going to show. There's two albums here from Disneyland After Dark. Again, considered a hair metal band. This is actually their first U.S. release, their first major label release, Warner Brothers. This is actually their third record. Before that, they were kind of this, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what they sounded like. They were just bizarre. Here they're more straightforward heavy metal. They had a bit of a hit with Sleeping My Day Away. I'm sleeping my day away. Yeah, that song. And again, looking much like Guns N' Roses here, or that whole late 80s look with the bandanas and the hair is coming down. It's not as big as it was before, and just looking a little less girlish, a little more badass. So great album from them, as well as the follow-up, Risking It All. Two great records from them. Again, never really caught on in the U.S. quite like they could have, and like they did in their own home country of, I will keep wanting to say Finland, but I know that's wrong. That's why I've avoided saying it. But anyhow, I don't actually study for these videos. I just do them and spout off what's in my head. So if I get anything wrong, feel free to point it out and let me know, because I will get things wrong. Can't remember everything. So anyhow, Risking It All, Disneyland After Dark, or DAD. They no longer produce a Disneyland After Dark album because I guess Disney came after them for it. So that's it. Some of my favorite pop metal records from the 80s. I hope you appreciated this video. I know some people are going to say that's all a bunch of poser rock. That I don't really care. You can call me poser all you want. I've been I've been a metalhead since I was a kid, literally, in the 70s. So you can't exactly say a guy who is now in his is a poser when he's been living it that long. So hope you all enjoyed this video, like I said, and go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of any of these bands, and appreciate you all watching. All my new subscribers, man, I jumped up like 500 subscribers in just the last month. So I really appreciate all you guys subscribing and watching. So that's it. God bless. Stay strong.